severed toes, getting high with a butterfly, the chode, less traveled. Greetings and welcome to Roman of the Empire. I'm your host, Roman. Before we get started, please like and subscribe. This week we're looking at episode 4 of The Peacemaker, The Chode Less Traveled. Again, we will have a spoiler-free version, and then I will dive into all the bits and pieces of the show, and you'll get a warning beforehand. So, I thought this was another very good episode. We get more background on Peacemaker's past and some explanation as kind of why he is the way he is. Humor is on points, and particularly good in the awkward moments, of which this episode had several. And what we didn't do a lot in this episode, though, was we didn't actually move along forward in the overall plot very much. A little bit, much like the Chode reference, which was pretty funny. But it was still a very entertaining episode. Like I said, this was a bit more deep dive into Peacemaker's past and the relationship with his father. Leota shows again that she's not just the bumbling new girl. She gets a couple of good moments in this. But Vigilante is still my favorite part of the show. Again, not a lot to talk about as far as elements before we get into spoilers, other than this was like I said, more of a background episode on Peacemaker and exploring the relationship with his dad. So, again, good episode. I still recommend watch the series. Now, spoilers. I'm going to start talking about things you don't want to hear about if you haven't watched the episode. So, this picks up right after the events of the last episode in the gang's rolling out after their encounter with the senator and his family, who Vigilante took out, and the mysterious butterflies. Vigilante is still whining about his toe, and judo master, who Economos beat with a tire iron, is unconscious and bound in the back of the van. And Peacemaker lies about killing the butterfly to the team. So, Vigilante... Oh, I'm sorry. Let me backtrack a little bit. Mern, who, as you'll recall, is the team lead, is kind of pissed at Peacemaker. He's like, dude, is your head in the game? Are you even with this? Because Peacemaker did not want to, despite his vow to kill every man, woman, and child to preserve peace. He had a real problem with being given an order to shoot kids without an explanation behind that. And that looks like it probably is going to lead back to some of the stuff that happened with his dad when he was a little kid. So, Vigilante is now a full member of the team. Well, Peacemaker assures that Mern that, yes, I'm in the game, but I need a little bit more next time. And Mern's like, okay. But, so Vigilante's now a full member of the team. And he's driving Peacemaker home, because that's what they do. And Peacemaker wants to stop by his dad's house, get some different helmets. If you'll recall from the first episode, he had a myriad of helmets, all of which had different powers. And on the way back, they're having a pretty humorous conversation about each other's fathers. And I won't go too far into it, but we get to the house, the flag's upside down. Vigilante's like, why? And Peacemaker's like, it's probably some deep state shit. And Vigilante has to say, maybe it's because he's a raging white supremacist. Which he is. But this we go back to this part of the story again. But what we do find out it's more than just, it's when in the prison scene at the end of, I think it was episode 2, when they're all in the cell doing the hail friggin' thing, White Dragon. White Dragon isn't like an organizational title, but it is a reference to a supervillain who's actually written in 1987 for the Suicide Squad comic. But this is the same character, but it's not the same character. They've shoehorned it into the episode. But it is an actual character, just in case you're curious about that at all. So they get the helmets, they're on the way out, and the neighbor from the first episode starts talking to Peacemaker about whether he's a superhero or a supervillain. And he's like, you said you're like Batman. And then Peacemaker has some not kind words about Batman. And the old fella's like, well, he has a rogue gallery. And Peacemaker's like, I don't have a rogue gallery. All of my villains are dead. And then he berates Batman for not killing his villains, and he actually blames Batman for the deaths that all of his villains caused after they escape or get out or whatever. And to be fair, he's not wrong. And I know Batman has gone back and forth on this himself, knowing that they get out and they commit more heinous acts, Joker in particular. But I digress. So, he finds out his dad is in prison from the neighbor. He's pretty pissed. Myrn explains exactly what happened, and he's like, he's remember they had to swap the fingerprints and the registration on the vehicle because of the exploding 80s metal hair girl incidents. So, and then Economos made it his father, which was not one of the better moves. So they framed the guy they need's dad for a crime that he didn't do. He's not a good guy, but he didn't do this thing. So Myrn deploys Leota to try to stop Peacemaker from going to see his dad. She fails. She thinks Peacemaker is a good man, and she's trying to play that aspect of his character off the essentially horrible person that his father is. But he goes in, and while he's in talking to his father, and I say talking, she is explaining to Vigilante, and how she finds out he's Vigilante is also a very funny scene, so you'll enjoy that. That basically Peacemaker is held back because of his father. That he places a love on his father that he does not deserve, and that is holding him down, making him less effective. It basically, and just is hurting him overall. And wouldn't it be better if someone would just take him out? And Vigilante being Vigilante, it's like, I have something to do. We'll get back to that. So Peacemaker's talking to his dad. He explains what happened, and his dad's like, I'm going to tell them this. I'm going to tell them what happened. I'm going to expose your team. And you're a bad son. And they have a pretty long and humorous but horrible conversation about Augie Smith's feelings towards his son. So Peacemaker comes out. He's pretty bummed out. And Leota drives him home. In the meantime, Vigilante's getting himself thrown into jail so he can try to kill Peacemaker's dad. This scene in the prison is both brilliant and terrible. The brilliant part. So he's in his prison garb being walked in, the new fish, and all you have is music in the background, and you can see the other prisoners gather around, basically berating, trying to terrify, intimidate, blah, blah, blah. And what this scene reminded me of, it's not the same scene, but what it reminded me of is the scene in Watchmen in which Rorschach is in the prison. You don't get it at all. I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me. Which was a fabulous scene, and that's what it was reminiscent of for me. Anyway, that was the good part. The bad part. He sits down, Vigilante, at Augie Smith's table with the other people like him, who seem to be having a grand time even in prison. And he starts going at them, basically throwing all the white supremacist tropes that Hollywood thinks are accurate. And that was crap, and it was overdone. And I still maintain that Augie Smith could still work as a super sadistic, abusive, horrible asshole of a dad without the ist part. But Hollywood just can't make something without the ist. He could still be a supervillain, but you can't. I guess you still have to beat your audience over the face with this. It is there. That's the part I don't like. Anyway, the attempt fails. Smith is now more determined than ever to let the authorities know what's going on. Peacemaker is now at home drinking and getting high with the butterfly, which you just have to see to understand. And you have flashbacks to his youth when his father made him kill a man, and he's just a child when this happens. And you get an incomplete picture of something that happens to his brother. We know his brother died, and the implication is that he is involved. But we don't see that. I'm assuming we will see that at a later point. Super spoiler. So, even if you got through all this, I don't know why you would have. At the end, Myrn gets a call and says he'll be right in. He's sitting emotionlessly at the couch. And this is a thing that we saw at the senator's house when the family was not engaging with the public. They were very stiff and robot-like. He's just sitting, blind on the couch, TV's on, but he's not connected to it. And then he gets the phone call saying he'll be in, and the proboscis rolls out and he drinks the yellowy goo. Myrn is a butterfly. Dun, dun, dun! Which is kind of interesting. You had to assume someone was going to be infiltrated. But that is an interesting plot twist. It's good that they did it now. We'll see how this rides out. So, I do like the series, despite the ists. Gunn delivers good humor, weird music, and mostly solid characters. So, I'm going to keep watching. I still recommend it. I just try to turn my brain off during the parts that are freaking moronic. But what are you going to do? It's Hollywood. For now, this has been Roman of the Empire, signing off. Be kind.